The letters went out to family, friends, housewives, professionals, factory workers, doctors, lawyers, educators, priests and preachers, and even Facebook friends. They had one thing in common: Amy Taylor and/or Josh Long. Here's what it said. Hi, I'm Ben Taylor, husband of Amy. I'm your daughter, sister, friend, and co-worker. I know most of you don't know me, and I thank you for your time. I have information about my life. I'm going to share some information about my wife and her friend. Some of you already know some of this, and some of you think you know more. Well, I'm going to tell you what I know, and I hope you'll understand. Some of you will like it, some of you won't. Some of you will hate it, and some of you will hate me, but that's the price I'm willing to pay. Please see the first attachment. It's a picture of Amy and Josh, fully clothed, kissing passionately. The caption reads, "Foreplay." It was taken 3 months ago at our company picnic. They thought we were trying to be discreet, but my friend was looking for his kids and saw them. He took some pictures and gave them to me, thinking I would need them. What a good friend. I'm not kidding. I'm ashamed that I became a classic insecure husband after that. I had to find out everything, even if it killed me. It did. Our promises to each other and to God in front of friends and family were rejected because of lust. I hate to think it. Was it love? Of course, I torture myself with the question, why? Because I left her alone for long periods of time while I was running covert operations for the CIA. Wait, I wasn't in the military. The only SEALs I know are the ones sunning themselves in the harbor. Could it be because I left her alone when I went on business? That can't be. I don't go anywhere on business and I hardly ever work overtime. I get home at 5. I'm pretty sure it's not because I've abandoned all my hobbies. I haven't run away and left her and the kids alone. I'm having fun myself, and I'm missing birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries. That's not it. My only hobby is making her happy. She seemed to like little surprise gifts and outings on the weekends. She even had to keep an eye on me to make sure I didn't go overboard. On those occasions, as it turned out fortunately, we didn't have time to have kids. I was always fair with her and made sure she knew I loved her. I spent as much time with her as possible, even though she had a job. If she hadn't had a job, she never would have had time to be with Josh. It helped that he was her boss, which made their meetings pretty easy. I was shocked when I got proof positive that it was a bit expensive and possibly illegal. I wasn't planning on using it in court, so I decided to go to the court of public opinion to prove what I'm saying about their affair. The following attachments are quite obscene, so don't open them if you think they will offend you. The next 2 images appeared. The first was a photo of Amy taken from a top-down angle. She was looking up lovingly while her mouth was filled with a male organ. The caption was really good. The second was a combination of images of them having doggy-style sex and an enlarged portion, leaving no doubt that he was buried in her ass. Their faces expressed lust and happiness. Underneath was the caption, "What she? I'm sorry if this offends you, but I wanted to be clear. I filed for divorce using irreconcilable differences, rather than adultery, so I wouldn't have to deal with the sympathetic looks, the occasional smirks from both sexes who already knew everything, and the inevitable conversations. Her friends were asking if I was sure this was what I wanted, if it was a mistake, that it was okay to see a counselor, that she was sorry, that it would never happen again, that we should try to forget the whole thing. Her mom, who I loved as much as my own, wasn't trying to make me back down. Her dad, who I respect but never really loved, was trying to talk sense into me. I apologize to all of you. I just want to say that I'm sorry you're involved in this situation. I'd like to ask you to leave me alone, as this is something I need to deal with between me and my wife. Well, not exactly. I didn't take Josh into account. I owe an apology to his wife, Sonny. You didn't have to face that or your 2 children, who are now 8 and 5. Maybe he'll change. Maybe you can forgive him. That's up to you, and I apologize to his company. And it's down to senior management for dragging them into the upcoming lawsuit. After all their meetings took place in their office. I think the supply people now know the reason they put a couch in his office. Just a heads up, if you give the couch to someone else, make sure it is thoroughly cleaned first. I know I can't use pictures, but all my attorney has to do is take statements from their CO workers. I don't think they'll take responsibility for the company as a whole. Many people are going to have to deal with some pretty tough times for a while. So, to wrap up, here's why I did it this way, to remove all doubts and not to waste time. Every photo will tell you everything, right? I've been served with divorce papers, which I expect to be happening any minute now. I'll try to build a new life without her. Amy, I'm sorry I wasn't enough for you. If you had come to me in the beginning and told me you had feelings for someone else and left, it would have devastated me, but I would have respected your decision. Instead, you were classic cake eater situation, wanting to keep the cake intact while continuing to eat it. Well, the cake is gone, Amy, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have a pretty severe case of indigestion. Or maybe you're even glad I found out about it so you and your lover can run off into the sunset. Either way, it's over. I've moved out of the house and taken what I want. Everything else is yours. All contact will be through my lawyer. I'm not interested in explanations, reasons, second chances, or anything else. Go ahead, Amy, leave me. Amy screamed before she slid off her chair in a deep faint. Colleagues rushed to her aid, but unfortunately she fainted at the sight of Josh's picture, which had been stabbed into her from behind. Soon the buzz started after one of the administrators discovered the email and opened it. Work practically came to a standstill. Josh was confused and surprised to see the HR director standing in the doorway. He asked, "Is it true?" without any introduction. The director walked in and slammed the door behind him. Josh asked again, "Is it true that you and Amy are having an affair here?" The office Josh turned pale. The director thought he was going to faint. That pretty much confirmed it. Too bad he'd always liked Josh. You're an idiot. Do you have any idea how much damage the two of you have done? Most of our biggest clients are religious charities. How do you think they'd feel if they found out that two of our senior employees were committing LWD acts on company property during business hours? He took a moment to catch his breath before continuing. I've just come from a meeting with senior management. The CEO called, demanding confirmation. He's already gotten calls from the Archbishop, the president of a Baptist charity, and a rabbi. Fredman, things weren't going so well. He was quieted again, looking at Josh. You're suspended, pending an investigation. I want you out of here in 15 minutes. No, wait, half an hour. Amy's being escorted out of here as we speak. Go to your email and look at what came from her husband. He turned without another word and slammed the door again on his way out. His fingers trembled as he pressed the button. When he got to the picture of him plunged into her ass, he felt physically sick and threw up in the trash can. It was all supposed to be fun and disposable so no one would know anything. But they both enjoyed it. They carried on promising each other that their spouses would never find out. Sonny must be desperate, he thought. And then it hit him. Oh my God, Sonny. He dialed her number loudly before she answered. He was surprised when she picked up. Maybe she hadn't seen it yet. She seemed calm. Is it true? She asked in a cold voice. Josh's voice was calm and collected. You only have one chance to tell me the truth. If you lie to me and I find out, our conversations will be handled by lawyers. Is that what you want? He could feel the walls closing in. He really loved her, and he knew he had no choice. I'm so sorry, honey. Yes, you are, but I'm packing 2 suitcases for you, your favorite things. They'll be in the garage. Please come by and pick them up while I pick up the kids from school. I'd go myself, but at least one of us has to be the responsible adult here. After all, there are kids involved. Until I decide what I'm going to do, I'll tell them. I'm leaving on business, so I want you to understand that if I decide not to try to save everything, you'll be the one to tell them why Dad doesn't live here anymore. They won't understand it now, but they will in a few years. I really hope it doesn't drive them away from you. I'm leaving, so don't try to contact me if I decide to. I'll call you. There was silence for a few seconds, then she screamed, "Damn you!" and hung up the phone. He stared at the phone like a snake before dropping it. The phone rang straight away. He glanced at the name on the screen, Amy. Hello? He said hesitantly. All he could hear was crying and sniffling. Then she spoke in a quiet, calm voice. Her voice was so quiet he almost didn't recognize her. Josh, what are we going to do? He's my life. We were going to try for a baby next year. I can't lose him. I can't. That was the 20th time that day he felt a terrible sadness. What have they done? I feel the same way about Sonny. But honestly, Amy, I don't see a happy ending for either of us. If we loved each other, we could accept our freedom and be together. But even though we liked each other, we're not together anymore. I was let go from my job, and I don't know if we'll ever be together again. I'm really sorry about Ben. Would you be open to talking to him and telling him there was no love and that we didn't mean it? I'm willing to do that. I think the best thing you can do right now is stay as far away from us as possible. Every time he looks at you, he'll remember what we did. He's never going to forget. He's been violent before, but he's never been hurt like this. I'll talk to you later if you think it's a good idea. He's given it a lot of thought. No, I don't think it's a good idea. All they need to do is find out we're communicating, and that would undermine everything we're trying to rebuild. I'm sorry it's come to this, Amy. You know I never meant to hurt you. I feel the same way. I hope things work out with Sunny. I know how much you love her. I can't. I think we were both a bit naive to think we were being clever. Goodbye, Josh, and good luck. I think we're both going to need it. Amy went home, knowing he wouldn't be there, but still hoping for the best. The house was the same, with the same furniture and pictures on the walls, but it seemed bare and empty. She knew why. A quick inspection of the closets revealed that all of his belongings were gone. She looked further, entering his shed and workshop. They had been cleaned out. The tools were gone. She wondered when he'd had time, but then remembered she'd never gone into them. Everything could have been gone for weeks, and she would never have known. She looked for a note or some message, but found nothing. She sat down at the kitchen table, her usual spot, and looked sadly at his empty chair. She put her head down on the table and, for the first time that day, but not the last, she cried. True to his word, Ben never. He spoke to her again. He refused to negotiate and refused to go to the court-ordered counseling sessions. Instead, he showed up at the jail to serve his contempt charge. The confused police officers took his statement that he was ready to go to jail and sent him home since no arrest warrant had been issued. The judge was dubious about this and still put him in jail the following weekend, releasing him on Sunday. He was allowed to go to work that night. He spent 3 weekends in jail before Amy finally gave up and canceled the counseling sessions. The divorce took almost a year to finalize. Amy still hoped he would come back to her, but when her mother saw the announcement of his upcoming wedding, she gave up on his wedding day. She'd drunk for the first time in 2 years. Time doesn't always heal all wounds, but it does make the pain more bearable. Finally, she started dating again and had 2 serious relationships that ended twice, barely telling her about her past. She finally met a man who loved her enough to consider her past the past and focus on the future. She married him and they were happy. She was very careful in her relationships with other men, especially where she worked. She was called a non-person because she never went to social parties and hardly ever talked to men except for work. Related topics, the only thing that marred her happiness was a chance encounter with Ben. 2 years after her wedding, he had left town after receiving a classified compensation from her former company to keep the case out of court. He was back in town for his sister and her husband's 25th wedding anniversary celebration. She saw him by chance sitting on a park bench. At first, she wasn't sure it was him. He was thinner than she remembered, and there was gray in his hair. She stopped at a stoplight and decided she wanted to talk to him. She hoped to finally apologize for her actions, but changed her mind when a tall woman with fiery red hair approached with a boy about 2 years old and a little girl about 6 or 7. The girl had red curls like her mother's, and the boy had dark curls. The girl jumped into his lap, and the woman took the younger one in her arms. He rose, holding the girl in his arms, and kissed the Amy was surprised to find herself crying. But then she realized she'd caught a glimpse of her future. It was the life she'd always imagined for herself. She quickly wiped away her tears and went home to make her husband his favorite dinner. Josh and Sunny had managed to reconcile after 15 months apart. She'd made him go through counseling. 1. Onwards and upwards. They signed a pretty tough prenup. He apologized so much that she finally lost her patience and told him that if he apologized one more time, she would leave for good. He changed his ways. He rarely went anywhere without her or his children. He worked hard. His new job paid better. His new job didn't pay as well as his old one, but he got raises and bonuses for his hard work. It took him years to get back on track. Sunny had to take a job to make ends meet, and when they reunited, she refused to leave it. It broke his heart when she would sometimes go out for drinks after work. She went to her quarterly work seminars, where she never did anything even remotely indecent. However, her stubborn refusal to talk about it bothered him greatly. She secretly took great satisfaction in it. Their lives were far from the same, but they were working to build a better life for themselves and their children. One day, Josh realized that they had sex with Amy about 12 times, averaging 30 to 45 minutes each, using the highest figure. This worked out to be about 9 hours in total. This was balanced by years of suffering for his family and the destruction of Amy's marriage. Was it worth it? Hell no. The end.